Well, it's been really quite busy, having had the eyes not just of the UK on this city, but also the eyes of the world. It's a wonderful opportunity for our city because, as mayor, I'm determined that we're going to take the opportunity to tell the story of Richard, the events of 1485, but also to relate that important chapter in Leicester's history to the wider 2,000 years of history that we have here in our city, and to make sure that we as a city take the opportunity to really make sure that people understand the context of what's been found and the important role that the city's had in English history.
Now, what was your reaction on Monday, or just before Monday, when you finally got the confirmation that the skeleton was indeed King Richard III?
Well, I got the confirmation by telephone on the Sunday, but actually had been entirely convinced really from the time when the bones were first dug up and the injuries and the curvature of the spine were described, because I think in the days before DNA that would have been more than enough to call this and to say very clearly that it was the king. Obviously, now that we have DNA, that's the only proof that really is convincing, and I wasn't at all surprised to find that what we'd all believed to be the case was in fact borne out by those results. Well, the body of the king will be reinterred in Leicester Cathedral, and we're now working with the cathedral authorities to ensure that it's done in a way that has an appropriate tomb, that is in the right place in the cathedral, and is done with the appropriate ceremony for the reinterment of the king. That is likely to take place about this time next year, and at that time we'll also be opening a visitor centre so that people can actually come pay their respects to the king and also learn about him, his history, and the history of this city. I think that this is an opportunity for us, not just to examine the bones, but also to examine the reputation and to look at what Shakespeare and others said some 100 years or more after his death about him, and the way in which, on behalf of the Tudors, Shakespeare made him out to be a villain. Because the reality, of course, is that he was neither saint nor villain. He was very much a product of his period. He was a king who was dealing with very difficult and very turbulent political times, and doing so, all the historical records suggest, with a considerable amount of skill and a considerable degree of sympathy that was quite remarkable for somebody of that period. So yes, of course, the bones tell us something, but I think also the historical records need careful re-examination and perhaps to some extent a degree of rewriting.